Next up, we are going to look at that exterior element. Okay, so I mentioned to Patrick here that this little sawtooth thing that we're doing with the siding is it's very detailed. The one thing that Revit does kind of good and bad at the same time is it simplifies geometry. So it kind of keeps, I mean, the files are huge no matter what, but it kind of keeps your file moving a little bit faster by not actually modeling the siding unless you absolutely have to. So for most simple applications, that siding layer is just going to be a plate as if it was like gypsum board. And then I'll show you a little bit more about it later, but about how to draw it in section and everything like that. But what I'm going to show you here is the structure here, the structural layer. I'm going to click into that, or sorry, oh, I didn't reset the layers here. So the other thing that you guys needed to do here was substrate for the gypsum wall. Or you could do anything 2 or above, substrate, finish, whatever you want to call it. This is substrate, and that's going to be a finish 5. Okay. So anyway, back into material for siding.
What was that little thing that you're doing?
It's a layer function. So you switch, like I switched the finish to finish 2, okay, because you can only have one structure in a wall. Does that make sense? Studs are your structure. Outside of that, you have substrates. Outside of that, you have membrane layers and stuff like that. And then outside of that, you have finishes. So those always work from the inside out. All right. So anyway, we're going to look for siding and see if there's a pre-made material. There's not. That's fine. What I'm going to do here is create a totally brand new material. And that's how I'm going to teach you how to assign textures, which is really important. So we're going to go to this little sphere at the bottom. Okay, it's down here. It says, if you hover over it, sphere with a little plus sign, it says creates and duplicates materials. So you click that and you say create new material. The material that pops up is going to be this, the default new material. I want you to right-click that, and we're going to rename it. We're going to call this one siding vinyl. Yeah. All right, so with that siding vinyl material, let's first just hit OK, and then make sure you give it a thickness. Let's call it 1 inch. Just keep it simple, and then hit OK and hit OK. So when you look at it in plan, this is what I want you to see. I want you to see multiple lines. You're going to see a core with gypsum board on the inside. You're going to see a plywood layer on the outside, and then you're going to see another layer for a finish on the outside of that. Does that look like what you have? Okay. So before we move on, I want to get us all there, and then we'll start looking at the pattern.
I don't think we have that.
Click the. Where's your properties? Can you go to properties? Yeah, it looks good. Okay, guys. So I noticed that some of you have a visibility issue. All right. Let's take a quick moment in order to understand how to identify whether or not your wall is showing properly. You must understand viewport visibility properties. In the bottom left, you have a bunch of icons right here. These icons are pretty useful and powerful. I'm not going to teach you all of them at once because you'll forget them. So I'm going to kind of roll them out as we discover a need for it. So in this case, what some of you are seeing, I'm going to show you the case right here. You're seeing that. Even though when you click the wall and you look at it there, you can't really see it up there. It looks like thick lines, but like I'm looking at it on screen and I can actually see the layers are there. So that visibility setting has to do with how fine or coarse your view detail is. Okay? Coarse detail shows you schematic design level line work all the way through your drawing. Okay, you're only going to see the exterior faces of that wall. if you switch it to medium, that's your first level going down into actually being able to see the material themselves, the layers of the material. Is that clear? Okay. All right. So moving on then, just make sure that your views, that view in particular, your plan view, is set to medium or fine. And then we're going to move on to modifying the pattern on that surface. That would be this right here that's highlighted in blue. So I'm going to hit edit, and I'm going to go back into the structure of that wall. Now, we have a couple of materials that have no patterns, and that's fine. That's the siding, that's the gypsum, the wood stud, the plywood. The siding is the one that needs a material, a pattern. The pattern is merely to represent that linearity of the siding itself. Okay, so in that material, open that up. We're going to edit it, and let's take a look over here in the right-hand side. The right-hand side has shading, surface pattern, cut pattern. Which one do you think we actually need? Surface pattern, right? Because we're going to look at it in elevation, and we need that pattern. So you go to surface pattern, and I'm throwing a lot of terminology out to you guys here. I don't expect you to remember it all in one go, but I must introduce this to you. We have drafting type pattern types, and we have model pattern types. Can anyone venture a guess as to what the difference is between the two?
2D and 3D?
Good guess, but not correct. Anybody else? Yeah.
Construction drawings versus design drawings?
Also a good guess. You guys are sort of kind of in the ballpark. It is a drawing related thing, but it also has to do with modeling versus drawing. Okay, so the key difference between drafting patterns and model patterns is that one of them is scaled per the scale of your 3D model. The other one is scaled per the scale of the view that's on the sheet. Does that make sense? So if you have a pattern that says 6-inch spacing from line to line, and you have it on drafting, that will be 6 inches spacing from line to line on the sheet. Versus if it's model, it'll be 6-inch spacing on your model, and then it will scale properly with your sheet. Okay, so there are certain uses for each one. What we're going to look for is a model, and we're going to pick one that's appropriate for it. And you see here that it actually has inches. So generally speaking, if you're using a pattern on your building, you want it to be a model pattern. So we're going to take 6-inch parallel and hit OK. And then you can hit OK again, OK again, OK again. And there in elevation, you have siding. Sure can. All I did was edit the wall type, edit the structure, edit the material, and then edit the surface pattern.
Which one did you put?
Okay, and I chose 6-inch parallel, then I hit OK, 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 OK. That's it.
What happens if you don't have the option?
I don't have 6-inch parallel.
Did you switch it over to a model line type? Model pattern type?
Oh,
Yeah. Okay.
So
Cool.
the siding doesn't show up on the plan though.
It will not show up on the plan. Well, because it's cutting it horizontally, and if you look at this, right, that's the siding layer right there. What is there to cut? It's going to cut, I mean,
I got you.
yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I thought it would sit on top of. I thought it'd be 2 layers.
There are 2 layers. So if you look at this here,
On top of each other.
I'm going to show you real quick with dimensions. So that's our 5/8 inch gypsum board. That's our 3/4 inch ply. And this is our 1-inch exterior siding. So if you don't see that, then it's either a viewport property thing or maybe the construction.
1-inch siding will be sitting on top of 3/4 inch plywood.
It is.
So you'd see the plywood and the siding.
You do.
You do?
Yeah. This is, so you've got plywood there, and then you've got siding on this side. At least on mine you do. Whoops. your construction might be a little off. I'll check yours out in a second. Yes. Oh.
Oh, I think my
Okay. I'll come troubleshoot with you guys, and then we'll move on to the next thing.